Hey everyone, it's 1010 here. So I was just thinking again, which sometimes causes me to get into a mode of existence and why we're here. And there's certain aspects that I have accepted as to why I'm here. And I was actually at the grocery store tonight and I was putting my food on the belt, and the young man that was the cashier, I was like, "Hey, how are you?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm all right." And he was like, I'm living the dream." And I was like, "Okay." So then another cashier comes up and he says, "I'm gonna take over. He's leaving for the night. I'm much nicer anyway." And I thought about it and I was like, I don't mind when people are going through like human emotions. Like, it doesn't offend me. You don't have to be super nice to me. You don't have to go above and beyond. I've come to that point in my life where it doesn't hurt my feelings if you don't provide me with stellar customer service, like with your attitude, because I've been through a myriad of feelings myself. And y'all don't really know me per se, but I wear my feelings on my face. I really can't hide it. So when I'm sad, you're going to see it. When I'm angry, you're going to see it. When I'm depressed, you're going to see it. When I'm happy, you're going to see it. And I told the second cashier, I was like, "It's fine. He doesn't have to be overly nice. I'm okay. He doesn't have to be nice at all. Actually, I prefer people to just, you know, be themselves." I was like, "It's actually more endearing to me. You're just being your true self." And I understand the frustration that they feel, with life in general, because you have a person, and I don't even know. Sometimes I'm like, why am I thinking this? Why do I want to make a video about it? But when I looked at that young man, the first young man who was like, he was not happy, he was not interested with life or anything. Um, he had like a dragon medallion on his neck. I didn't ask him about it, but I thought it was pretty cool. But I was like, he probably is into certain things. But that's kind of like what I got from it. And we forget there are some people where this place, the more you find out about it, and I'm not just talking about like the government, I'm not just talking about like what goes on, I'm talking about the earth itself. Like, why are you here? It can depress people. It can make them feel like, what is the meaning of life? What is my purpose? And as young people in America, I will tell you that it is impressed upon us that we have these expectations of greatness. And a lot of times, those expectations of greatness don't occur. Okay. So there's like a little bit of a delusion. And some of you will say, "Oh, I never experienced that or never felt that way." Um, and that's understandable. Like me, I came to the point, I'm like, well, there's not really much that people would mark up and say, "Wow, your life was incredible," and this and that. You're doing all these things. You're a humanitarian, you're a philanthropist, you're a, public speaker who goes around and talks about how you cured cancer, which is still a, taboo topic that people don't discuss. And we know that there's a cure out there for that, but there's no money in it. But anyway, I talked to the second cashier that came up and said they were the nicer person anyway. And I was like, "How are you tonight?" And they responded with the same thing. I'm But it was a little different. Although that person was happier, I'm living someone else's dream. And he mentioned, "I just have to make it through this day as long as I get through this day." And I was saying some other things just to kind of like make light of the situation. But even though that person, he was portraying himself to me as happier, he was actually more like depressed, how I perceived it based on our conversation. And he told me that he had a really hard year last year. And he didn't really get into the details. But when he said, I just got to make it day by day. And I was like, well, I don't want to get philosophical on you, because a myriad of things went on in my brain. And I was like, maybe I'll tell them about the Anunnaki. Maybe I'll say something about 1972. Maybe I'll talk about this planet. And maybe I'll talk about the Jupiters. Maybe it's not a good idea. And I shouldn't be like that. But I cued the situation for what it was. And what it was is that I did say, I'm like, people, I was like, don't say you just want to make it through this day. I said, I don't know what you're going through. And I'm like, you know what? I can't even tell you that. I was like, you do what you feel you need to do to make it through this day. But I'm like, we as people, we don't even understand why we're here on this planet or our purpose. And I think that's what makes religion so appetizing, is that it gives you a sense of purpose, that there is something greater out there. And that's what draws people in, is really they want to be cared for, they want to be admired, they want to be, uplifted and taken in. And they want to know that there's a higher being out there that sees their worth and, accepts them and desires to have this connection with them. So then they feel this purpose. And, there are a lot of people that are fine with just living every day as normal. And then there's a lot of people, I don't necessarily say a lot of people. There are people that struggle with the system that's set up here in America, the system that's set up here on this planet. Because there's like different tiers, right? So, like, we have our government, our state government that controls us. And then we have our federal government that controls us. Then we have like the laws of nature. We have our creators, whoever put us here on this planet, you know, they they really know the outcome of the situation for us. Unless they just dropped us off here and we're like, let's just let the humans do human stuff. You know, I went through a myriad of things. Like, it's almost a little more plausible for me to believe that we're in a circle of hell, because at a certain point, when you learn so many things, it's easier to conceptualize that point for me. And I'm sorry if this comes across as negative or whatever, but these are just things that I work through. When the more I learn, the more, and I'm talking about not just like the government and they're taking our money and those things. That was shocking for me when I learned about the Illuminati, when I learned about, like, blood ritual sacrifice, when I really saw like Christianity for what it is, when I saw Judaism for what it is, when I saw, you know certain faiths for what they are, and how we desire this connection with a godlike being so that we can have purpose. And if we do things right here, we will be accepted into a higher plane of existence somewhere else. And we won't recycle back into here, into this planet. And I think the thought, for some people, not everybody, but I realize the more I look at just how life is, the different, um, I don't want to say like monuments, but the evidence of what kind of place this is. It's like a prison planet, and it has been dominated by another species of humans that are from another planet called Jupiter. And I still think that whatever was following the Jupiters from their planet to ours, when they came in on their cubed ship that's dispersed in monuments around the planet, um, it's not going to be a good day for humans. Yeah. I mean, I really don't even want to get into all that. So, like for me, I have kids, I have children. I don't even like the word kids because that means goats, you know? So, I have children, they need me. And I have to sit here as their mother and then their father. We have to help them find their purpose in life. We have to give them something to hope for. Now, right now, I'll tell you the only thing that keeps me going are my kids, my children. My husband, yes, him as well, but more so my children. And one day, when they're ready, if they can manage to understand all the information that I've learned throughout time, which took me years. I always tell my kids, you got to question things. When people say something to you, you just question it. My kids get in trouble at school because they question the teacher. They're not rude, they just question what's being taught. And I feel like that's a good quality to have. However, it's not a good quality because people they want you to be obedient, they want you to be subservient um, to the government, and that's how you train the children up, is through these certain types of school systems. Now, see, my son, I took him out of school because he's more of like a free thinker anyway. He doesn't really conform well to the classroom. I realized that even though I'm what I would consider to be book smart, I do not thrive in that environment. I don't, because I will learn something, I can do that. But if it's not applicable, if I don't see the value in it, it's very difficult for me to keep it stored in my brain unless I'm like, well, I got to memorize this because it's on the test. I got to memorize it because and that's pretty much what good grades are, is just memorizing stuff and then regurgitating it. And that's how, our society here bases intelligence. And that's not intelligence, is being docile. It is being accepting of what you're supposed to do, following the rules, and doing as they say so that you can be a good citizen. You know, got to be a good citizen. You don't want to get in trouble because then your whole life will be messed up and you won't recover from it. That's the danger. Don't do that. Now there are reasons why we have laws in place, because some people just don't know how to act and they will hurt other people, and that's just a fact. They don't really conceptualize certain things when they're hurting other people, and they lack the ability to empathize, or they were put in a position to where they don't feel anything because they have a need that needs to be met, and doesn't matter if you hurt somebody or not. So we have pretty large amount of violence and crime rate here. But anyway, I came to this concept, like there's supposed to be some asteroid or ship coming our way, the Atlas 3, whatever. And I think some people either have no idea that it's coming, probably have no idea. And two, if the aliens were to come and do something terrible to our planet, I think some of the humans would be okay with it. They are so bored with their life that they want to see something. And the last few days I've been like super, like incredibly emotional. Incredibly. I mean, over the top. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I think about, this is another concept that I have. And I think about that movie with Tom Cruise, Edge of Tomorrow, where the day repeats itself, but the humans don't know it's repeating. Nobody realizes the day's repeating except for Tom Cruise. And sometimes I think to myself, what if the day repeats and there's some type of alien technology, the day repeats, the aliens come down, they destroy everything, but we can't remember. And then they do it again. But there's that residual leftover emotional thing that happens where literally sometimes I feel like people have died in my spirit. And I'm so sad in my heart, like I cannot stop crying. And some of you are like, it's 1010 is probably just, you're probably just hormonal. But it's not that, because I've been through grief. Okay. I've lost both of my parents. I have been through mourning and depression. Sometimes I have dreams that I feel are so real that they jack up my day or my week. And I'm like, if there's the devil, this is the devil's work, because it feels so real. It's just horrible. Like my imagination can't even fathom this stuff. It just populates in there. And I'm like, I don't watch scary movies. I don't like scary things. I don't like any of this. And here it is in my brain. And you know how you're like watching things happen in your dream and you're like, is this really my brain doing this? Because this is crazy. It's horrible. I'm thinking to myself, I wish I would just wake up, but I don't wake up. And then in the morning, I finally wake up and I'm like mad. I'm crying, you know. And then I think, well, maybe I can see the future or I see the past or I'm seeing something, but I can't even conceptualize it to people because I don't know how to put it into our current world situation. Like I've seen certain things in my dreams. I don't even know how to conceptually tell people this is what happened. And it's horrible. I don't even want to go into some of the things I've dreamt about. But I'm not like that. I'm not that kind of person. I don't like those kinds of dreams. And like I said, I don't feel that they're my dreams. Sometimes I feel like I'm dreaming someone else's dream while I'm sleeping, or I'm seeing something that's being given to me to see, but it's not my dream. It's somebody else's dream, which is my point of the story when the young man was like, I feel like I'm living someone else's dream. But when I wake up and I'm doing my everyday stuff, it's like it's like two lives. The life that I have in the dream world. Now, not all my dreams are crazy and wild and weird, and then there's what I perceive and what we consider to be real life. And real life is waking up from sleeping in your bed. But I ask you, how do you know you're actually awake? What if the reality that you're driving into work is actually your dream, and then the reality of life is actually when you go to sleep? That's reality. It's all crazy, whacked out stuff. Sometimes really great stuff happens, and you're like, wow, can this even be possible? I'm having the most awesome dream, you know? So, in my mind, keeping an open mindset to possibilities can really, it can either one or two things. It can either hurt you mentally and emotionally by looking at too much stuff that causes you to go down a rabbit hole, and some people deal with it better than others, I'll say. But then when you get to a certain part and you're like, man, this is just too much. I don't know how you can stay happy completely and feel normal and regulated when you learn certain things about this place without any kind of support, like any kind of group or anybody that you can talk to. Like me, I only have one person I can talk to is Rat. And he's the only person I can bring up concepts and things to and say certain things that is not necessarily like popular. Like if I were to say it to my husband, he might look at me and say, "What is going on? What is going on with you?" Because I've tried to just kind of like start a topic a little bit to see like what he would say, and his mind can't conceptualize that. But in this realm of existence, in this day-to-day life stuff, he's to me very smart. But when it comes to opening your eyes to, the Anunnaki or the Jupiters or the Saturnians or, you know, the fact that we live on this prison planet. And I call it a prison planet because and literally we live on a planet where everything dies. Everything gets old and it dies. And we've come to accept that it's okay that everything dies. Even though there is life, however, every second you're getting older. So there's that time Saturn type, prison that's been created. And that also goes back to the fact when the Jupiters came here and they manipulated this planet to meet more of their needs. So then humans that were here that lived longer, had better lives, more fulfilling lives, no longer have that based on how they manipulated the planet to meet more of their needs as a people. So very, very interesting. And I'm sorry. Why am I saying I'm sorry? I have to stop doing that. There's a reason why you're listening to this. I typically don't get as many like views on these types of videos, and that's okay. But I just wanted to like share my thoughts. And I know I haven't been making a lot of videos lately. I did make one about the Jupiters the other day, and well, if you got to see it, great. If you didn't, I'm sorry. I guess I said too many things that were considered offensive. But it's really sad when you tell the truth and that's considered offensive. So if I sit here with all these historical facts, I'm cold hearted. If I sit back here and I can show you different monuments and different things and, when the Jupiters actually got here and how they manipulated time to fit themselves into this place, yeah, it's just one of those things. I guess it's incredibly insensitive of me, but that's what happened. So it's unfortunate, but here we are. I think I saw a video about Trump saying he was going to take away the freedom of speech, but sometimes it's difficult because I know things are dubbed and AI and all that. So if you know anything about that video, let me know. And there's also like the gun rights. I know Florida, they just decided to do like open carry, and we'll see how that goes. I think people should have the right to carry guns. However, I think the real reason why you have guns is to overthrow the tyranny of your governments. But that's for another day, you know? That's for another day, folks. Well, everyone take care. I'll talk to you later. Bye.